for joining me today in this part two of how to get your spouse's support on your weight loss journey. So in the first part, we talked about how to get their buy-in as you're planning to start a new weight loss journey, how to, let have them allow you to go on to whatever you plan to do to lose the weight or get healthier. In this part, I want to focus on what to do if while you're in your journey and trying to lose weight, trying to get healthier, trying to get fit, all of that, what to do if your spouse does things that either blatantly or inadvertently tend to derail your efforts, because that can be really, really frustrating. And oftentimes we feel like our spouse just doesn't want our success at all and is not in our corner. And a lot of times that's just not true. There's a lot that goes into that. And so I just want to help set you and your spouse up for success in this journey. And just kind of keep things positive and light and moving forward, because honestly it is a roller coaster ride, and sometimes it is the spouse that gets you off track and crashing down, and then you have to work to get yourself back up. So as much as we can eliminate the highs and the lows that the spouse contributes to, the better off we're going to be. So let's dive into this session, okay? So first of all, I want to acknowledge that sometimes the spouse is doing things, hi Nikki, thanks for joining, doing things to blatantly derail our efforts, such as saying something like, okay, can we go out to Chinese food today? Or I really want to go out for ice cream tonight. We never get to have our fun times of, indulging in whatever area your spouse wants to indulge. So those are kind of maybe not so intentional, but they're about that spouse and what that spouse is missing. Other times it could be just the spouse being totally sweet. And, I actually was talking to someone at the gym today, and they were saying, well, my spouse was being really nice to me. I told them I was having a really bad day, so they stopped at the grocery store on the way home and bought ice cream. And they did it for me to help cheer me up, but it actually really went against what my goals were, and it was a little bit frustrating for me. So they recognized that their spouse was being sweet. Hi, Anne, thanks for joining. But at the same time, little things like that, little helpful things, can completely blow us off track. So it's really helpful if we are prepared for when things like that occur, that we have the right response in mind and don't take it so personally, because it does sometimes feel like a personal attack, and we don't want it to feel like that at all. And so I want you to consider a few things and to take the personal attack feeling out of it. Hi Maureen, thanks for joining us. And if you guys feel free to throw in comments at if something I'm saying is hitting home, or if you have a different scenario you'd like me to address, absolutely put that in the comments. And if you like what I'm saying or whatever, give me a thumbs up or a heart or whatever. Appreciate that. So key things I want you to think about when these situations are occurring. You have to keep it about you. And I know you've heard this over and over again, but the only thing you can control in life is yourself and how you respond to a situation. Where you're going to get the most resistance from your spouse or from co-workers or your kids or anybody else, it's when that they feel that you're trying to control them, or two, their security is at risk. And I'm not talking about like this is a life or death situation for them, but something that maybe is their security might be in comfort foods. And so when they feel like their life as is, the life that they're very comfortable with, is at risk because of something that you're doing, they're going to lash out and do things to derail your effort. Hi, Jen. So really just bring it back to you. And when you're preparing for your statements, constantly remind yourself, I need to make this about me. How can I explain this in a way that affects me and not my spouse? And the other part of I want to really hit home on is that um so I just lost track of my thought. That I really want to hit home on is that I need to respond and how I respond to the situation. If I just get frustrated with it and storm off and get mad at my spouse, I am not responding in a way that's helping me. So you're in control of your response and you have to respond. Just like when I was talking about last week in preparing for that conversation, how a lot of times we never even go into the conversation because we've replayed it, we've pre-played it. I don't know if that's word, whatever, in our heads and decided how it was going to go. So we just back out of that conversation. Same thing with this. We cannot back out of the conversation. We have to still have this conversation. So in preparing it, I'm just reading real quick what Jen is saying. Husband is keto, my kids are eating normal, and I'm trying to find what works for me. Absolutely. It's a balance when there's a lot of different things going on in the house, and that's where communication is key, and making sure that we're all supporting each other and understanding each other's goals and appreciating, because especially when someone's found what's right for them, they want to push that on you. But if it's not right for you, then they need to understand that and support that in a productive way. So again, keeping those conversations about you and not about them, letting them have their wins. Okay, so first key in preparing for these conversations, focus on I and me statements. Focus on life, not weight. So here's the thing. When we constantly are saying to our family, I am trying to lose weight, I want to drop 10 pounds, I don't like being heavy, it feels really inconsequential. And it might be a factor that, okay, yeah, we've gone through this before, and it kind of, I've heard this before from you, and you kind of drop off of it after a couple weeks. So I don't know, just focusing on weight alone, there's no emphasis, no benefit to the other people. But where we can really put our focus on is life in general. So not just that we want to lose weight or get healthy, it's how it impacts the life that you want to live and the life that your family wants to live. And so really hone in on that when you're thinking about how to respond to these situations. So let me give you an example. I had a client who her kids and her spouse, all of them were just, she felt like they were constantly working against me. They were be like, hey mom, are you sure you don't want this icy? Or are you sure you don't want to have some chips with us? And just she felt like she didn't have a lot of willpower to those things, and so it was really frustrating that they just kept doing that to her. And so I helped her prepare a response, and in doing so we focused on life, what the kids want from her and what her spouse wants from her. The kids play soccer and they wanted her to come out and kick the soccer ball with them, or well, that was one of them. The other one wanted to go ride bikes a lot, and she didn't have the energy for that, and she was thinking, well, if I lose weight I will have the more energy. So I asked her to, instead of focus on the weight thing, which they don't care about, they care about her having energy to go out and play with her. So I asked her to prepare to think about how she would respond in a way that really put the emphasis on what they want to do as a family. So for her, I said, and actually I've got it printed out exactly what I had her say, but it's really important to me that I get out and play more with you. I know you want to go out and practice soccer. I know you want to go out and ride bikes, and I want that too. One thing I've noticed is that there are certain foods that after I eat them, I can feel literally my energy just slumping, and it continues on, so that overall I have less energy. So what I've noticed is that foods that really give me a lot of energy are like fruits and vegetables and things that come straight from nature. The foods that strip energy from me and keep me from getting out and being active are things like chips and ice cream and sugar, things with a lot of sugar in them. And so I think it would be great if you could just help me with this, because I have a hard time staying away from those things and I want to get out and play with you. So if you could just say, offer me things that will provide energy for me and not offer me things that strip energy from me, that would be so great. And that would really help me find the energy to get out and play more with you. So again, it's about her, the effects that food has on her, and here's what you can do to help me so that we can do stuff together that we all want to do. So again, focusing on life, what you want to get out of life in this situation, okay? Also, really important to consider the effects that it's having on other people. So is there a fear from your spouse or children or your coworkers, whomever, that they're missing out on something? So I had one client that told me that her coworkers got constantly frustrated with her because they used to go out and eat all the time, or people would bring stuff in and they would go over together and get the foods that people brought in, but they weren't healthy things. So her coworkers were missing the interaction with her and likely feeling a little bit guilty because they probably wanted the healthier lifestyle, but they weren't there where she was and in that right mindset. So it's like, okay, if we can just take a step back to consider how they might be impacted by our success and therefore why they might be trying to derail our success. And if we can talk to them about that, it would be really helpful in keeping them from further derailing our success. So in this instance, the coworker says to her, "Oh, I forgot, you don't eat junk food anymore, or you only eat healthy food," and kind of in a really negative way. So a good way to respond would be, "Yeah, I know. I was thinking about that the other day and how I really miss how we used to go over and have this time together, going out to lunch or going to the buffet that people brought in for us. I miss that time together. I'm wondering if we can still figure out a way to have that fun together and still support my journey of trying to really focus on being healthy so I can have more energy to play with my kids and be with my spouse when I get home from work." So again, keeping it about me, I'm not coming off of this journey because my life is more important to me, and considering what that coworker or spouse or child is missing out on and asking them, is there a way that we can still consider or still have those things that we were missing out on in a different way? So it's really important to engage them and recognize that their life has changed too. And what can we do about it? But it's really important also to ask for their support after you've really explained to them why it's so important to you and what you're getting out of it. So put in the comments, like, what are some things? I don't know if I'm hitting on a wide enough variety of things that your spouse, your kids, your coworkers do to derail your efforts. So if you have some other examples, throw those in the comments because I would love to address your individual concerns. I'm just thinking of some other concerns that my clients have shared with me that I could pass on. Oh, okay. A big one. So you don't have the willpower yet. That comes with time. And so you don't want the foods in the house that you are likely to cave into and go grabbing. So sometimes people feel like their spouse is derailing them because they don't have the because they want the foods in the house. And so saying something like, the spouse would say something like, I need my chips. That's what I enjoy eating when I come home. I don't want to lose weight. I don't want you taking those from me. And to argue back and say, well, by bringing the chips in, I'm just going to eat them and then I can't be successful. It's kind of a no-win for either person. So really, work out how you can approach that with your spouse. And again, don't avoid the conversation. Just saying something like, okay, I appreciate that you want to have these chips and I'm not trying to change you. I just know that I don't have the willpower to stay away from them. So how can we do this until I get that willpower? And again, how is this impacting your life overall? You've got to stay focused on the goals of what you and your spouse will get out of you having this change in your life. And often it is about mood and energy, a lot of times about health. For someone who's pre-diabetic and has a really hard time staying away from super fatty foods or super sugary foods, I mean, it is honestly, it's an addiction. It really is. And until you have freed yourself from the pull of those foods, it is best to keep away from those. So even explaining to the spouse like that, just saying, listen, I am scared. I am really scared. I am pre-diabetic. I see the writing on the wall. It is going to cost us a fortune in medical bills if I don't get this taken care of now. I know that after I break this cycle, I will eventually avoid these foods. But for now, I need your help. And what can we do to keep these foods out of the house? And you can only do so much, right? So if your spouse still doesn't support that, then say, okay, here's the thing. We've got to make a cabinet for you and your foods and a cabinet for me and my foods. And I'm not allowed to go into your cabinet like that. Maybe we even, if you have to put your spouse's name on that cabinet or whatever, or, just to know that that's not yours. You're not allowed to take from it. That's great. And if your spouse and you like to joke around a lot, you can also, some people ask for their support and saying, hey, if you see a bag of chips in my hand, just hit them out. For some people, that feels really bad to them, like their spouse is controlling what they eat and they don't want their spouse's involvement in that way. But for other people, if it's fun and you feel supported by that, then that's great. But just know what works for you and your spouse and move forward with a plan in that way. So again, I'm going to wrap up now, if I missed anything, just put it in the comments and I can always address it later on as well. So yeah, even if you're watching this, by the way, on a replay, put your comments still in and I will just check back in this periodically and respond to your specific concerns. But to recap on this, key things I want you to focus on, it has to be about you and your goals. Be considerate of how this change is affecting your spouse, your kids, your co-workers, and acknowledge any insecurities they might have about that or any fears they have about that. When talking to them, really focus on the problem at hand and again, overall how it impacts your life, and really, get their buy-in with this new life that you've identified for yourself and how it will be better for everybody else involved. And stay positive. I didn't stress that one enough as we were talking earlier, but the more you can stay positive in these communications and really listening to your spouse's or your children's or your coworkers' concerns and making sure they feel like they're heard, the better off you're going to be. And ultimately, the more you are going to get that buy-in from them. So I hope this helps. Again, if you have any yeah buts or what if this happens or what if that happens? Put them in the comments. I will address them and get back to them. And until next time, here's to your health. Bye-bye.